sounds like... Well, hello there, my name is HW.
Hey, I'm the Sooze.
Sooze, that is wrong. That's like, that tone is so bad it should be illegal. It's like you could go to jail for that tone. The problem is, look at this. We were actually running a direct profile. So that D in Tone Junkie profiles always means direct profile. Mm-hmm. So what we've got here is, it's the amp with no cab. So I captured this, the Dumbles 2204 D high, but it's all through an aux box. And so it's providing a load to the amp, but it's not giving any coloration of the speaker. That's a direct profile, mm-hmm. right? So the reason this sounds like that is that one of the most important things speakers are doing is it's cutting off frequencies we don't want. So a guitar speaker and like what you might hear today called like a DJ speaker or just a PA loudspeaker mm-hmm. is the frequency range. And a speaker meant to amplify music is going to go really low and really, really high. Mm-hmm. But guitar speakers, the reason when you plug your acoustic guitar into a guitar amp, it doesn't really sound like an acoustic. It kind of just sounds like an electric mm-hmm. through that, or it sounds weird, you know mm-hmm. what I mean? The guitar speaker is shelving off a lot of this high end. Mm-hmm. You know, you're not going to get 20K.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's really lobbing this stuff off. Mm-hmm. And that's the sound of the electric guitar that we're used to. So when you remove that cabinet, you're adding back in all these frequencies that should be the S's in what I'm saying, that should be the cymbals, mm-hmm. that should be the clack of the acoustic guitar. But rules are made to be broken.
Yeah.
And Cordy sent me a video. He was doing a demo, mm-hmm. sent it over, and I was like, oh no! But then I listened to it. Check it out. Listen to this. Okay, now that is a really musical example mm-hmm. of a direct profile. But why does it work and why doesn't this one?
Right, yeah.
Well, this one's super gained up.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like trash. Play this again, because this sounds really terrible.
You sure you want me to play it again?
You know, just, yeah, why not? That is so bad. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, we're using way too much gain. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine this amplifier sort of like just bringing up all these frequencies indiscriminately. It just mm-hmm. amplifies and boosts everything, right? Yeah. And there's nothing to limit it. There's nothing to bring these mm-hmm. things down. So if we take this D profile, but we bring it to one that's actually very clean, and you're using a cleaner guitar, mm-hmm. now try to play this a little bit. And, you know, I'm just going to leave it with that amount of delay and verb. I couldn't even hear delay and verb on the other sound. It just sounded like trash.
Yeah.
But here's with a little delay and verb. Hey. That sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. Could you use that?
Totally, yeah.
Sure. It doesn't sound exactly like an electric guitar. Mm-hmm. You hear this extra thing. It almost has a...
Like an acoustic guitar, like a piezo pickup.
Yeah.
Or pickup. Yeah.
Yeah, that extra... Mm-hmm. It almost feels like we turned on the acoustic simulator or something. Huh. Just by turning the cab off. Early on in my Kemper journey, I heard a guy say on the forums, he said, if you want the... He was a metal guy, mm-hmm. which... makes this statement make a little more sense. Okay. He's like, the best cleans come from turning off the cab. Turn it on, beautiful cleans. And that makes sense if you think of like an active pickup and like you just turn the gain down, turn it off. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden you get all this high-end, beautiful, like kind mm-hmm. of those thin kind of cleans, especially you throw in some chorus.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're at this like very metal, silly sounding.
It's kind of like a tacky and like plinky, the
It
sound
is
of it,
plinky, yeah. And one of the things we're doing, we're using low output pickups, so it's really helping to like counteract it. Let me bump you up to number 2, and I bet that's still gonna sound okay. It does have a very piezo quality. I think you could use that if I were going to accompany a singer and it was solo. You definitely could use that. You know what I mean? I mean, you could like play A Christmas Carol. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Yeah.
You could do Silent Night.
Right.
You could totally do that, and people would just go, "What a funky sounding guitar," or probably they wouldn't notice at all.
Yeah.
I mean, a musician might notice, but this is one of those things that should be like against the rules. It shouldn't work.
Right.
It's possible through digital, but
Yeah, the sound of just an amplifier working without any. I kind of think of that cabinet as like a little soft pillow for it to land in. It's very spiky, very crash. By the time it hits the cab, and we were hearing that before with like really loud notes, so you start to lose the the nicety of it.
Where there's sort of a parallel here is with speakers and their frequency response. If you take something like a steel string singer, John Mayer uses a steel string singer with EV12Ms, I believe. EV12, but they're Electro Voice 12-inch. They're one of those models, right? That speaker has a lot of high end. Is much sort of flatter and wider in its frequency range. It goes deep and it goes high than compared to a creamback. A creamback which really rolls off a lot of high end, or a greenback which isn't going to have a lot of extended low end.
Right.
And the reason it kind of works, and Jerry Garcia used that sound too, is because those amps stay clean. Like Garcia was putting twins through Macintosh power amps through these big speakers. And so the idea of the cleaner something is, the wider we can have our frequency range. But when we get super distorted, we want to bring that frequency range more focused on the mid range.
Yeah.
But I mean that goes only so far, because Zakk Wylde also uses EV speakers, but he wants a lot of the extra lows, right?
Yeah.
But there still has to be a shelving in his sound and his mic technique of the extra high end, so that it doesn't get crazy. I don't know. It's all just.
And none of these speakers are going to give us that much.
No, this is like
response.
This is no filtering at all. Even
Right.
an EV would be quite like tame in the high end compared to these. But it makes sense. Cleaner sounds. We don't mind hearing as much high end coming out.
Yeah.
Dirtier sounds, that high end gets really like trashy.
We don't want those frequencies distorted. We want these other frequencies. Yeah.
And if you do, then you sound like Dimebag Darrell. And if people know Dimebag's tone, it's often described like lovingly as, I mean, it sounds like bees in a bag, like being shaken up and thrown at you. You know what I mean?
I do.
Like you listen to Dimebag Darrell's tone, it's absolutely silly. It's a silly tone.
Right.
But in the context, it's like this shh and this and nothing in between. Ultra scooped, it's like a and shh at the same time.
Kind of funny is it almost sounds like you're profiling.
that is the sound of the profiles. So rules are meant to be broken somehow in the hands. I think touch has a lot to do with it too. But anyway, I've been HW.
I've been Sooze.
And here's the rest of that Cordy video because it sounds great.
It really does.
Thanks so much for watching Tone Junkie TV. HW and the Sooze.
Out.
Out.